Why Google is your friend often doesn't work. My name is Leesa Renee Hall, and I help highly sensitive people and deep feelers explore unconscious biases so they stand on the side of justice and become better ancestors, all while protecting their energy. Fork in the road. Should I go that way? Or should I go that way? I've actually been on this trail before and I can't remember. I think I remember I'm gonna go see, with the snow covering the trails and without the leaves in the trees, I've lost my bearing, kind of. I'm not lost. I mean that I came here when everything was still green and I was actually with a group of people, so I was busy talking and not paying attention because someone else was paying attention. And so as I stand here, I think that's not the way I want to go. I want to go this way. All right. Solved. Okay. Google is your friend. Why doesn't it work? All right. So first, let me set up the scenario. So let's just say you shared your very real experience with an oppression. Sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, you name it. Ableism, fatphobia. So you share this very real experience that you've had with a particular oppression, and it never fails. Someone will show up trying to diminish your very real experience. I mean, you'll get tons of people saying, I support you, I'm with you, so sorry this happened. But there's always that one person who shows up and wants you to prove to them that what you're saying is real. I think I went the wrong way. Yeah, so they want you to prove to them that what you're saying is real. And it will show up in several different ways. It could be either, well, what about? What about isms? They might ask you endless questions like, well, I just want to see if I understand this. And then they'll start asking tons and tons of questions, which is a form of sea lining. Google that.
Google Map.
All the friendly people you meet on the trails. All right, where was I? Yeah, so it'll show up in different ways. Sea lining, or, well, if you said it nicer, then I can hear you. That's tone policing. Other ways that people will try to diminish what they're reading will be, well, that's not me. Oh, that could never happen. So that's a sense of denial or fragility that shows up. And so you've already written your very real experience. It was vulnerable for you. And especially if you're highly sensitive. Getting in touch with your sensitivities can be a very scary act. If you've been working with me in my community on Patreon and going on your own inner field trip using the guided prompts that I author and stream of consciousness writing, you might be feeling more bold in expressing to the world through your socials that, hey, I am highly sensitive. And as a result, you're ready to show your vulnerabilities and reclaim that part of yourself that society told you is broken or is wrong. Especially if you've heard messages like, tough it up, or boys don't cry, or things like, why are you so quiet? Speak up, speak up. Why are you so shy? These are, if you've heard that, then chances are you're most likely highly sensitive. And so after such a vulnerable act, the last thing you want to do is try to now defend yourself. If you're trying to uphold your boundaries, you know that defending your position is not the thing to do. And so you may say to them, well, Google that. Google is your friend. Off you go. And I totally understand. Because like I said before, the last thing you want to do is re-traumatize yourself going toe-to-toe with someone who wants you to prove that your experience is true. But here's why Google doesn't work. Here's why that very innocent call to arms, Google's your friend, go Google it. Here's why it often doesn't work. It's because often the search engine will only return search results that confirms that person's worldview. In other words, bias shows up. So what are algorithms? I see people say this a lot, batting it around, and a lot of people don't understand what they are. I do. I worked for 18 years in the tech industry. I got into the tech industry by accident. I didn't study it in school. I actually graduated from university with a history degree. But I was able to get into the tech industry after I launched my very first website. I really wanted to launch my own magazine. I love writing, and I thought that I was going to get a job as a print journalist. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm not getting tons and tons of jobs. Little did I know that the internet was actually disrupting the newspaper industry. But that was the late 90s. How was I supposed to know? But I did something quite by accident. I wanted to launch my own magazine in hopes that I could build up my portfolio using my own magazine, and hopefully that would get me into the door so that I can get a job as a full-time print journalist. At the time, I was dating a guy who was in computer science, and he said to me, why launch a physical magazine? Why not launch a magazine online? And I thought to myself, online? I mean, at that time I knew about the online world. I had an email address. I got my first email address in 1994. The only person I can email at that point was the systems administrator at my university. But I thought to myself, this is so cool. And so I knew about the online world, kind of, abstractly, but it wasn't until I was dating that guy that I started to look online. And I had my own computer at that point and got connected online through one of those CDs that AOL used to send out. You've got mail. So I used that. I think I paid $20 a minute or some crazy amount. And the line would always drop whenever the three-way calling would come through because it was plugged into the phone. Oh my gosh, how far we've come. And I went online and I taught myself HTML, which was the programming language of the day. And a few weeks later, I launched my very first online magazine called Sports Femmes. Play on French words for women in sports. It's not the exact translation. And that's what I did. I ran this little online magazine for a number of years, got a lot of coverage. Toronto Star did a profile on me and called me an innovator. I have that article. It's nice to look at. And that's what I did. And from there I got jobs in agencies and firms and small web development companies, first as a developer and then as a technical project manager. And then eventually the last job I had working full time was as a software project manager. And so I know how algorithms work. It's a bit of code that helps users to find information based on their interests. And so the code is designed by programmers. The code doesn't have bias, but the programmers do. And because the tech industry is dominated by white men, then obviously it's their biases that get encoded into the code and into the algorithms. And then as the machine learns your interests, oh, she clicked on that, oh, she read that, oh, she was scrolling through this and she spent a long time looking on that, it starts to return search results that align with what it believes your worldview is. And so if you're interested in right-leaning information, the algorithm will learn that you have a conservative bias. If you like right-leaning stuff, it will return results that are right-leaning or liberal or progressive. Even if you total line, you're somewhere in the middle, which I believe I am, it will still skew the search results either to the left or to the right. One day I was sitting beside a guy at a mechanic shop and I kind of peeked over at his Instagram feed. Everything on his feed had to do with sports. And I thought to myself, that's interesting. There's no sports that show up in my feed, even though I do have interest in basketball. And so a lot of it is not only based on your interests and what you're clicking on and how long you're staying on things, but also based on, get this, the way that people who look like you, who live in your city or town or country, in other words, it also assumes some of your beliefs and biases based on people who look like you, who speak the same language as you do. I don't like that. I don't know about you. I don't like it. Because I'm a complex, nuanced human being. And so the next time you're in a situation where you share your lived experience with an oppression, someone comes along and wants to debate your lived experience, instead of saying Google that, I encourage you instead to create a resource and put that on your blog, put that on a space that you own, and then share the link with that person. What you find and what you curate in this list will help that person to be able to cut through their algorithm bias so that they will instead see the information that you need them to see. Remember, telling someone to Google that may not help. I've seen people who go, yeah, I Googled that and it said this, and they're sharing a link to some right-wing website. Or it could be the opposite. They're sharing, maybe it's something else, and then they come back and they share a link from a left-leaning website. To help them cut through their algorithm bias, you put together a resource, curate a list, and then share that link instead. And then that way, the person will be seeing information that challenges and not confirms their worldview. Stumble bravely.